The letter came back saying, we agree that slavery was a barbaric and uncivilized act. That's in the letter, you know. I quote the letter. Barbaric and uncivilized act. But the monarch still refuses to sign a paper to say it was a crime against humanity. That is what Can't Blame the Youth identify from way back. Because any lawyer take up that letter, when I look at it and say, hold on now. A barbaric and uncivilized act would have had to be carried out by what? Barbaric and uncivilized people. So there's a confession there. So the Queen of England confessed that this thing was brutal because it was carried out by brutes. But not accepting responsibility for the act because of the history. So if I thief 100 years ago, another thief because 100 years pass. Just like a lot of the people today who are doing brutal things and then become a Christian and become a pastor and then don't answer for justice. But I'm change my ways and become a convert beside Jesus here, right, boom. You see? Some serious thing, you can't blame the youth because this is schizophrenia, it's madness that. You murder somebody and run going to church and say he's a Christian now. So what happened to the justice part of it? And this is where I am going. My opinion is that the most important lyric in all of reggae music is a song called Equal Rights. Equal Rights and Justice. The most important lyric in a reggae, totally. Whole heap of thing important, don't get me wrong. But Equal Rights and Justice puts it on the table. One love is a nice tune. And one day we'll reach one love. It is the dream. Martin Luther King, and everybody holding hands nicely around the table. Great. But what Peter is saying, we don't reach this yet. People trying to sweep the schizophrenia under the carpet and go on like it don't exist. That is what he's saying in Can't Blame the Youth, and more so in Equal Rights and Justice. Because, young people, when we were younger, when we say black power, the powers that be dubbed us racist. So, to speak for yourself, they must say you're automatically against somebody, Which anybody with a basic maths knows that is not so. Yeah, good. So, you are standing up for you. Can't sweep the thing under the carpet, can't reach us yet. So it's like steps to a stage. So one love out there, so one heart, let's get together and feel all right. That's what we dream for. Don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. That's the goal. But we're not there yet. You cannot be there until you get equal rights and justice. Because you have to understand when a man want to get you on a system. So when you stand up for you and him say to you, boy, you're against me. That's like a ploy. So equal rights and justice solve that. Because equal rights and justice is advocating, see the table there, put up the chair there, everybody come now, we want to sit down around the table as brethren. But one guy not coming to the table. So equal rights and justice smokes out the real enemy. The guy who not coming to the table, why he don't want to come to the table? Because in his mind, he is still superior to you. He used to rule you. How dare you free? How dare you not be a slave? And worse, you coming out to civilize you and talk about humanity. He's not coming. So equal rights and justice is important. So Peter said, I don't want no peace. And of course, I'm right on that. I see that I'm not talking about war, hooligan. No. It's a condition. I don't want no peace yet. I don't want to sing one love yet. You have to make a condition. I don't want to come in here and be an apologist for Mugabe. But I remember how many people had believed that the villain in Zimbabwe was Mugabe. And many people, I don't know if anybody, I don't want to be the person who knows whole heap of things about things, but, and many people don't know things, but anybody remember the Lancaster House agreement? That the man sit down and reluctant to sign? The British have not lived up to their part of that agreement yet. That's not publicized. You see? Because if you leave it long enough, and the young people don't have any history, you can tell them that that man is the guy and make him a bad guy because you control media, you know. Worse now you have all them little thing in your hand that you can tell anybody anything. So our leaders are always the villains. They're always the bad guy. Because the guy who don't want to come to the equal rights and justice table still control the information. That's what Dr. Barnett means when he said the education system is still colonial. It's not about the information. You have been programmed how to think. That's what equal rights and justice are dealing with. You have been programmed how to appreciate life. You see, you have been programmed that if the powers that be says, this man is Lord this, then he is Lord this. You're programmed to watch these things they call the royal wedding. Right? What? Some man get married, some woman get married. For them system that. You see. It's not racism. For them system that. Them system don't have no control over I. But that was the process of the 400 and going to 500 years. The 3 C's: commercialize, Christianize, and civilize. They skillfully left out the 4th C, which was capture. In this country, a movement came up that, unlike most of the other British colonies, challenged it and questioned it with substantial facts. For example, religion. And we heard about the ancient history of the Catholic Church and the Anglican and all of these churches. And then one day Rust made the people realize the Ethiopian Orthodoxy, it predates that. Most people in Jamaica never know them things. If you carry the person to the Orthodox Church back in this day, you might say, but this is a copy of the Catholic Church. You never know which one was the copy and which one was the original. That's what Can't Blame the Youth and Equal Rights and Justice brings out. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And then there's a sort of voce, followers of Jesus. Of course, the churchman then figures, well, the rest of them are fight Jesus. No. Peter is saying, if you're following the man who crucified, how come you don't want to crucify? When you're faced with serious decisions, you run go over Judas' side rather than the Christ you're supposed to follow. This is the seriousness of that song, the seriousness of this type of music that came out of these 3 brethren. Yeah, Bob popular. I want to take an ounce off of that. And it doesn't trouble me that Peter not popular as Bob. Because it was not about the popularity. It was about getting a message out there, which I think the 3 of them succeeded in getting out there in their lifetime. An admirable job was done. A body of work is left. And you know what? Generations to come will discover it in ways that we cannot appreciate because of the very programming that I talk about. Right? There was a time when people from Trench told me, I don't want to hear that. That's the Rasta thing that I want that. It is slowly being discovered. Slow, yes, but it is being discovered. Being discovered. And other places in the world discover it before we. So it go. Peter Tosh is the man who brought the consciousness of Africa in the whalers. Bob brought a Rastafari consciousness and a philosophical perspective. Peter hit out at apartheid. He spoke about the whole business of identity, no matter where you come from, as long as he's a black man, he's African. Him tell them, say the herb to legalize, see it, you know. And then Bonnie brings a serious philosophical perspective, again, about the behavior in these colonial places. So these three brethren as the whalers in that time, and then their individual careers, have marked and changed the world. And many people who are not here tonight in other countries are listening to this music still. We have a challenge to preserve our art, and here is something we can mimic from our European heritage. Beethoven is not a new artist. Beethoven is not even a recent artist. But you know about Beethoven, because a great job has been done to preserve the music and legacy. We need to do that. We need to realize that the creative process, the process of making a tune, in no matter which race or nation you come from, is the same process. Peter Tosh is a composer. I say it because I have raised questions several times that why is it that some people compose and some people make tune? That's part of the whole colonial thinking. So in our society, we see our composers as some man will cut record and make tune. But we see the Europeans as people who compose. Burn up that. These are composers. Inspired people who sat down and what came to them and through them from the source of creation is the same source of creation as any two man in Spain who write the concerto the wrong ways, or a man in China. I mean, I know China music so good. You get me? It no matter. Equal rights and justice, that's what it means. Appreciating the human being. Come to the round table, everybody. Let's sit down as brothers and sisters. It is not scary. It is not scary. So why am I insisting it's not scary? Because it's still scaring some people. So, when they bring off some arms house, and the youth them go for the gun now, then they say the youths are criminals. The song address it again. He said, you buy the youth a nice Chris gun at Christmas. And then he speak about, everybody talking about crime, but who are the criminals? Your position in parliament don't give you the right. Who are the criminals? Anybody of my age, suppose you can list out all the badman police them from Joe Williams come right down. And every squad that every government has tried. And now we have Zozo and SOE. It no matter, I'm not criticizing Andrew, you know. But Andrew now do nothing different from what Michael Manley did do, or what Sierra did do, or what the government. They just keep doing the same foolishness. Because there's a disrespect for the same youth them who them blame. It's a disrespect. The disrespect. The disrespect to pay them a proper wage, a good housing system, proper education, and be honest about the history. Be honest about the history. So, the land of Marcus Garvey have people who bleach. Our first national hero, you know, back to Africa, you know. And we have people who bleach. Okay? The people who carried us here, from there, impose a visa now for us to come off of this. And if you don't get the visa, you don't get back your money. I have never seen something so indecent. You see? And I know that there might be people who are either scared to hear me talk it and boy about Igbo man and take away visa. And I'm sure them can't do that because we never did have none. You understand what I'm saying? There was no visa on the slave ship, so I don't understand this. You see? In other words, people, what Peter showed about the equal rights and justice, there's a time when a man we have to sit down and go to the ultimate dream. You know what the ultimate dream is? World citizenship, international morality, and lasting peace. It's where the peace comes after you have the world citizenship and the international morality. You see? No guy can come tell me now, say this and that's a terrorist, but his behavior is not a terrorist behavior. Equal rights and justice. So you can't blame the youth them because the youth them go to dance and them listen to the tune them. That makes sense. I never learned this in school, but I not only learn it, you know, I hear it in my language, I understand it. Because one thing with the teacher when them sing it or DJ it, you know, it's so better than the one where have the chalk and thing and the blackboard thing. So the youth them get it. And them get vexed. Them get vexed. And the politics come and say, watch out now, come you, election time, some go then. Because film dream is to get the youth them forget him. Voted in, but the youth them say, I'm not take the gun, you say, but the youth them have a different program. And once them get the gun now, start hot up the place. I say, oh my God. Can't blame the youth. Aki walk. 12 people get shot. And 100 shot fire. Because nobody that carry a marksman, you know. So they have to fire 100 shots to kill 12 people. 100 shot times $500 shot. $50,000. When get the money there? When get them shot there from? You see? And them now work. You see? Everybody talking about crime, but who really is the criminal? Equal rights and justice have that in it. You see? Listen, man, it's some deep philosophy these people sing in reggae music. And that is why it is respected all over the world, especially among people who feel in the pain of oppression from repressive regimes. You understand? So that's the importance of Peter Tosh. Now, there are conspiracy theories that abound. Some people say Bill Cosby gone to jail because he attempted to buy NBC. Because the only people who don't have a satellite up there right now is black people. And Marcus Garvey tell you already the importance of using your propaganda. So when you're talking about the information that gets into the youth, we still have to go through people, back door and front door and side door and jump through window, media-wise. Okay? There are conspiracy theories that say Colonel Gaddafi was killed because he had paid down the money for the African satellite. To live in a chaos. I'm saying this to say that I wonder if the death of Peter has anything to do with the fact that he offered to buy JBC. I want to put that out there. You see, Mr. Barnett, take the risk, ask him to come talking, the risky thing him doing. So I put that out there. Yeah? Because controlling our information is something that every race and nation want to do. Why? Because, see how we consume? How we consume. Is that what I say? So, tell them what to consume, tell them what to believe. Okay? Information needed. Equal rights and justice is not here yet, and this is the reason why you can't blame the youth. Now, Peter Tosh was a very amusing man. I'm a friend, and I'm not talking from textbook. So I will share some anecdotes. Peter had a name for everything and everybody. He was baptized in the Orthodox faith, as well as in my heart. But Peter, the man, when he check out certain things and him see the loophole, him no bother with it. So one day I go to the church myself, and I was suggesting that he do something as a fundraiser. And Peter said, yeah, man, able. But then not with take bribe, you know. And Ethiopian heart attack. So, you know. That was 12 tribe. Ethiopian heart attack and take bribe. He had a name for everybody and everything. And there are certain people that them own certain body. I hope I don't offend your sensibilities. But Peter Tosh owned Bumbleclad. He owned it. Nobody can pronounce it like Peter. He have a resonance between the M and the B when he say bum. Yeah. So We still live in Windsor Avenue, you know, right? Marlene, you might remember. And when Peter coming down the road, you know Peter coming, even in the car, you know. From way up the road, you know, just hear the boom, and just like that's Tosh. However, on a concert, he was careful not to use the expletives in their direct form. He would mask it. So, I'm talking about the grass cat and the bongo clippings. So, Peter, great guy, good humorist, very deep. Tragic side of Peter before he passed, however, he was in an accident where his first wife died. And whatever conversation I would have took with him, it would go back there. It was like an eternal scar that he never got rid of. It really, really, really hurt him really bad. And it rendered him one thing though. It rendered him the vampire killer. The Peter ever killed vampire. The M16 guitar was actually custom built for Cadcore originally. And the guitar maker carried it to us in London. And we said, no, we're not projecting gun. And so the guitar was given to Peter Tosh. The replacement for the M16 guitar, I don't know if it's a cat as a guitar right now, that is a red, green, and gold at the end. That was the replacement. Same guitar maker. So these are some of the facts that I say it's not textbook, this is real. But when it came to being a jovial, nice, loving person, Peter was that. I used to go up to 56 when the new draft of the Whalers just started. Because I used to tune the Fender Rhodes for them. And we had some good conversations, talk. Then he used to come by my house in Windsor Avenue because Eva used to do some work for him. And I remember on tour in the United States, Sister Sledge was to open. And they dropped out last minute, I mean really last minute. And we were on a tour as a headliner. And we were in the same hotel. Herb Miller just said, boy, we don't have the opening act, you want to do it. So I want to tell the young artists today who are aspiring to the stars, many of these artists would not say, open or open, maybe I'm a headliner because we run our own headline tour. Never met me, never make us, never mind. We went out to the thing and just opened the show, and there was a nice real Jamaican day, third world first, Peter next. Because all of them trips there, you don't need it, you know what I mean? So, back in the days of black and white TV now, when there was a station called JBC, there was a forum on the music business, how to get it going. And it's funny because I hear a lot of the same arguments happening 30 years later. The panel was Derek Harriott, Richard Coury, whose father used to own Federal Records and they were still in charge of it at the time, and Peter. The moderator was Vin Lumsden. So Peter comes on the TV, sitting in his chair, with a Sherlock Holmes pipe in his mouth, and an acoustic guitar, and cut him 10. And I'm not paying them no mind. I'm going to pick some cards. And the discussion is going on. And the discussion is going on. So in the discussion, Mr. Coury says the president at the time, the record buying public was about 50,000 people. So took a break and came back and Peter still did not have anything to contribute. So Mr. Lumsden said, so Peter, say something, no man. I mean, Peter, look at him, take out the pipe and say, tell me something. How much people the man say buy a record in Jamaica? Say about 50,000. He said, tell me something. How much of them have something to play the record pan? Place went blank. He said, then you're not talking about the industry. The industry not exists. Tell the government to buy some record player, give the people. Put him pipe in their mouth and go back and play guitar. That was it. You see, that's the kind of summary, precise, witty, to the point. Now sometimes you don't realize how time is passing. And so I had just left third world and I was in Africa. And I was having a conversation with Richie Basie on the phone. And him say, "Bo, Capleton come on the tour bus and we are show some Peter Tosh video." And I never realized that the youth I don't know, Capleton, Him say, Capleton say, "My lad, I saw the man they used to go on." Because as far as fear Capleton is concerned, him are the fireman. Yes. So anyone who said them so be a man of bonfire a long time. You see. So I just share those anecdotal moments about a great person. I want to congratulate Pulse and the organizers for putting up the museum. I am not worried anymore about where things are. I have seen small seeds grow into trees. It only takes time. In time, it won't be housed here anymore. It will expand. In time, the complement of visitors will get wider. I'm optimistic about our future as a people because the stone the builder refused will become the head cornerstone. Equal rights and justice will definitely lead us to one love eventually. Bless.
Yes, give thanks, Eva Cooper. Yeah, man, let's give you another round of applause. Yeah, man, we give thanks. A lot of history right there. I just pick up a lot of information just by that short talk. And right now, moving right along, we're going to have Tosh, the executive director of the Peter Tosh Legacy and Brands, come and say something about the Peter Tosh Foundation and what they have planned to keep the legacy of Peter Tosh going strong. So let's welcome Tosh to the front. Yes, give thanks.
Thank you. Michael Barnett, thank you so much for putting this together. And thank you all for coming. It's a nice, decent crowd. And so, as Barnett said, I am the head of the estate and brand. It was myself, Marlene Brown, and Kingsley Cooper who came together to actually open up the museum in 2016. And so, in my capacity as the head of the brand, what I am responsible for is every day looking for new opportunities to make sure that the name can live on in different spaces. And so, as of right now, I've actually been doing this since 2009. I remember kind of just going to the court. I was a full-time teacher at the time, and this is not something that you get taught. You don't go to school to learn how to run your father's estate. And so we kind of went through the school of hard knocks, so to speak, where we found some management that came in around that time, but they were mostly self-serving. They looked for opportunities to serve themselves, which is what most people, unfortunately, in the music and entertainment industry do. And so I ended up having to, after a while, fire them, which, and anybody that goes through like letting go of dead weight, you're like, wow, this is liberating. You're fired, and you're fired, and you too are fired. But it was a blessing at that time because then we ended up in 2014 with new management. Brian Latour, who's based in New York, he had worked with a lot of the hip hop legends from LL Cool J to Nas, and like Craig Mack, and just 25 plus years or 30 now years of being in the music industry. So not only working with specific artists, but working with radio, basically every aspect of the music industry. So he came in, kind of saw what was going on and kind of helped us get rid of a lot of the dead weight. Because at the end of the day, to carry on a legacy, you have to be able to sustain the brand. And that means, making sure you have new opportunities that can make money. And so since then, we now have we've been in the talks of working on a movie deal. Movies can take a long time to kind of see through, but that's very, very exciting. We also have a Broadway play that we're working on as well. And we're constantly looking for new merchandising opportunities, and that's something that we're passionate about. I am a brand ambassador. My family, if you ever go to the Peter Tosh website, or years of conquerors telling the story of the conquered, when now it's really important that we're the ones that's writing the stories that the next generations can read. Another initiative of the foundation is the Legalize It initiative. And so cannabis legalization is happening slowly around the world. There's different states in the United States, and there's decriminalization happening here in Jamaica, and eventually it's going to be something that's common. But one of the issues within that is that there's a lack of education. There's been propaganda since cannabis has made illegal in the 1930s. A lot of it was racially driven, from attacking the Mexicans to using it as a means to control black people. The head of the FBI had all different types of propaganda that they released to really create this divide and conquer situation. And so the Legalize It initiative's goal is to provide educational workshops around health, but also to provide means for diversity within the cannabis industry. And so as we see, no matter where you go in the world, with particularly in the United States and here in Jamaica, the faces of the people that are now launching the biggest brands, the biggest companies, they aren't the original people that started the market, And so what we see happening is that these major corporations are coming in, and the original farmers who have sacrificed, my father who sacrificed, and my family that sacrificed, and many other, Rastafarians and black families that have sacrificed and ended up in jail, persecuted, facing years of prison time, are no longer able to participate within the industry. And so we are partnering with different minority organizations to create a pathway so that minorities can participate in this multi-billion-dollar economy. Another initiative that we have out of the foundation is also the Can't Blame the Youth initiative, which is what this event was titled. Every February, last year was our first launch of the Can't Blame the Youth initiative. Yesterday, we actually took 20 students from the Haile Selassie School. I personally curated a tour which is socially justice themed through my father's museum, and I touch on things like African and having young people understand the strength that comes when you recognize yourselves and your brothers and sisters as African before you recognize what divides us. And so before you say, oh, you're from Tivoli Garden and I'm from, Trenchtown, or you're from Atlanta and I'm from Barbados, if we were able to recognize ourselves as Africans first, there is so much strength that comes with that unity. And there's so much more that can be done as a people when you come together to do that. Thank you. And I also talk to them about, I use a lot of my father's songs when I curate this tour. And so I talk about Mystic Man, because in that song he says, I don't drink any red, yellow, blue, green soda. He says, I don't drink no Frankfurters. Meanwhile, half the kids that are coming through the tour, they're walking with their bigger drink. And I point out to them, I say, hey, can you turn to the back of the bottle? Can you read the ingredients? And I'm like, you see that yellow number 4? You see that red number 6 or whatever number it is? I'm like, that's called a carcinogen. And so instead of using, cherries to make it red, or beets, or, pineapples to make it yellow, they actually use, dyes. Do you know what a carcinogen is? And they're like, no. And I'm like, a carcinogen is a cancer-causing ingredient. And so many of them have no idea. And I was like, when you understand the importance, I'm like, if you had a Benz, how would you treat it? And they're like, oh, I'm cleaning, I'm gonna put the best gas in it, and I'm gonna shine it up. But I'm like, so why do you treat your body any different? Your body reacts the same way. And we talk about Ito living and why Rastas, that Ito living is something that Rasta's been talking about since the beginning. But now it's been branded by commercialism, and they call, oh, we're vegan, and oh, we're, now we have to call things that should already be. Food should be natural. Why do you have to say that food is natural? That makes no sense. And so we talk about all these things with young people, And then we also I touch on legalize it and the importance of, my father being a bush doctor, and that he would say there is no disease that can't be cured. Once you understand the power of the bush, he would say your mind has to be in the medicine for it to work. And so, yes, there's times when Western medicine is very helpful, but we have to understand the power of the herbs that our people, just ancient people all over the world, have used. And it was, another corporate kind of push and propaganda that pushed that to the side. And now those things are starting to come back again. And so with the Can't Blame the Youth initiative, it's really about using my father's words, using his message to make sure that the legacy doesn't die with this older generation. We have to make sure that we as fans of the message that understand it pass this on to the next generation, which is why every time there's an opportunity to have my daughter be involved or have my nieces and my nephews be involved, I push for that. And so, playing my father's music and stopping and making sure she understands why the song Legalize It is important. She's the youngest cannabis activist I know right now because she understands that you can learn about information and not necessarily have to be like a avid smoker of cannabis. You can have the education. The education is what is powerful. Just because she knows about weed doesn't mean that she needs to smoke it, because she has the education to know that this is not something that is for her to consume. She knows that it's for an adult. She knows that it has it's a neuroprotectant. She knows this information, that it's good for this and good for glaucoma and good for asthma. And so we have to then take that message of of the message that we have and kind of pass that on to the next generation. And so the Can't Blame the Youth really is about immersing people into their own history, because Peter Tosh lives in all of us, really. The music has been the soundtrack to our lives and our experiences, and so we have to pass that on to the next generation. And so the Can't Blame the Youth initiative kind of holds that importance. And that's something, as a former Boston Public School teacher, education is always what's really, really important. Lastly, actually 2 more initiatives from the foundation is the Justice for Jawara initiative. Some of you may have heard that Peter's youngest son was arrested for cannabis in 2013. He then went back and forth for pretrial motions up until about 2017 before he turned himself in. He was charged with like 20 years, finally got it down to like a plea of 5 years, and then turned himself in. And after being in jail for about a month and a half, he was attacked by another inmate and then suffered a traumatic brain injury. To this day, he requires 24-hour nursing around the clock. He's unable to do anything for himself, and it's a really shame that an antiquated legal system and a criminal justice system often fails so many of us. He's not a criminal, he's a Rasta, and so his biggest crime is just being arrested for cannabis. And so I share his story in different arenas, really trying to push for criminal justice reform, but also, the legalization of cannabis, because no person, if one person is making money off of the plant, no one should ever be persecuted for it. Point blank, period. So an injustice anywhere in the world is an injustice everywhere. And so I share that, his story, really to push forward and hoping to push the needle towards justice every day. The last initiative that we have out of the foundation is the Global Community Initiative, and this is really having us have an opportunity to reach out to different communities across the globe. We have our eyes obviously on Africa. My father understood that to be home as for all of us, and so we look to kind of have different partnerships with different organizations to really do missionary work in Africa, and it's really open to any part of the world as well. And so the legacy is big. It's something that I do with a lot of pride. I'm always asked, like, do you feel this burden And I don't. I really don't. I think that I'm blessed to have the gift to really be able to communicate. My first priority for those first couple of years that I had this responsibility is making sure that the family bond was strong, because you have to build on a strong foundation. And so once you have the foundation strong, nothing can stop you. And once you understand that, anything is possible. So that is the work that I do. I'm grateful for all of you that have come out today. We're going to continue to make sure we have events in Jamaica, make sure we reach out to the next generation, and keep carrying on the work of an extraordinary individual, my dad. So thank you.
Thank you, Nyambe, and that's great. So you heard it from Nyambe Tosh herself, carrying on the legacy of Peter Tosh, carrying on the legacy of her father's works. And right now we want to open it up for question and answer, because I'm sure you have some questions or some perspectives that you want to share before we go into the music segment of the program. And also for those of you who have not seen the Peter Tosh Museum, which is right here to your left, it will be available for you to see at the reduced price of 1,000 Jamaican dollars. And I understand the tickets are available. Actually, there's a little office upstairs if you're interested in seeing the museum. So grab the opportunity while you can. But I'm sure there are questions and answers. Just indicate with your hand if you have a question, either for Nyambe or for Igbo. I know a lot of ground was covered, a lot of information, but I'm sure someone has a question. Oh, yes. Right over there.
Greetings, rise and giving praise to the Creator Rastafari. Yeah, just giving honor to the presentations for Baba Peter Tosh tonight, and just wanted to ask you, Empress Queen, if in regard to is it your brother's case, Jawawa?
Yes.
Where is this taking place, and can you expand on it a little more?
I can. Thank you for asking. And so he was arrested in New Jersey. Since his attack, which happened in 2017, there was a criminal case brought up against the assailant, who just pretty much was charged with more time, which doesn't really, for me, that just doesn't do anything. And the strange thing about New Jersey is that it's very antiquated. And so my brother at the time, when he was in jail, he was saying how he was locked up with like a 17-year-old who got arrested for like, I don't know, a spliff or something, but couldn't make $150 bail. So was in jail with a whole bunch of like grown men. So the guy was charged, and we fought really a lot to get the case dropped. It's been dropped conditionally, so due to his medical condition, the case is dropped. But the strange thing is that if he was to like get up and start walking today, they would recharge him, which is sickening. It's sickening. But at this point, we have filed a lawsuit against the jail and the city, and the sheriff, and lawsuits do take time. So we had to wait for the criminal case to be done, which was finished last year, and then we filed a lawsuit last year, and it's still in like the discovery stage of things, and so it's just a slow process at this point. It's in Hackensack, New Jersey. Yeah. But we do push, we do have a holistic care fund. Jawara actually is home with me. We were trying to get him into like a facility, but the doors had closed on that. And so when doors close, you have to understand that he's not supposed to be there. He's supposed to be home. So he lives with me. I have great family support that's helping to take care of him. My mom doesn't live with me, but she's a personal organizer, and so we're constant. She like keeps the place really organized. I'm constantly like we spend tons of money on his care, so there is a fund that can, if anyone wants to donate to the fund, it's always appreciated, because we're trying to give him cannabis. I'm always researching herbs. When I go to the doctors with him, doctors think I'm a doctor. Because before teaching, I was an engineer, so I'm like, if it doesn't, they're like, okay, the scans look great. I'm like, great, can I see the scans? Thank you. Okay, so what is this? All right, okay, so, well, usually when we bring them in, this is his vitals, and so I'm thinking that because this is an issue, and they're like, so what school did you go to? And I'm like, I went, he has taught me. And all of his nurses, all of his doctors really have appreciated how involved we are with his care, because although he's been written off as, hey, this is going to be the way he is, but the way the body works is that if you sign on to that, then yes, your body will believe it. But if you continue to fight, um, and he is continuing to fight every single day, he's fighting the biggest battle. So for me, I understand that, and I know that what we do. My mom has her role. I have kind of mine, and we kind of just do this. It becomes almost like second nature, but it is a 24-hour, 7 days a week responsibility. So, thank you for asking.
I'm sure there must be another question, query. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, right, over here. Brother, you have the mic, Jerome? This is over here. I just, when Nyambe was talking, I just had a flashback because the first time I met her, and actually her brother, was 2003 in South Beach, South Florida. They were selecting, they were selectors there. They were quite a combo, her and her brother. And I know they would give Muta some competition in terms of selecting, but yeah, those were the days back in, that was something else. So, my sister over here, you had a question.
Thank you so much, Niambe, for a beautiful presentation. I'm curious, you mentioned your in various initiatives with the brand and searching for different ways to properly put the brand before the world. And one of the things that I find very, very interesting about Peter Tosh is his personality as a bush doctor and his belief in the herbs and his knowledge of the herbs, not simply just to heal disease, but also to connect your spiritual self as a black person to your African roots. And like many herbalists like him, he highlighted the fact that many of the pink, blue, green soda that he sings about in Mystic Man really acts as a very effective block between yourself, your African spirituality, and Africa itself. So, have you explored, you know, that aspect of Peter Tosh's brand, as the world needs healing more so now than ever? The bush doctor aspect, the healing aspect, especially as you say, your new acquired knowledge in medicine and wellness.
Um, Definitely, it's something that we desire. We have launched. We're developing the cannabis brand, um, but it's a wellness brand, and so Bush Doctor is something that we're constantly in discussion about. It's really about finding the kind of right partners, because I can't just stop and say, okay, I'm gonna, process, develop, and do everything. So it's finding the right partners that are able to fulfill all of the needs. There are lots of ideas. Like I have like if you see, like I envision the brand in just about every space possible. But wellness is very near and dear, and so it is something that we do wish to kind of move forward. Thank you.
Hello, good night. My name is Marlene Brown. I'm Peter Tosh's wife. And this lady bring up a topic, not tell a lie. But if I want to take it back to that, I'm about to take it. All right, you mentioned about Peter as a herbalist. To be honest, all right, I really wanted to become a doctor. But I was so afraid of blood and anything dead. So meeting Peter Tosh at the age of 17, I tell this man, say, I wanted to become a Dr. Peter, but I'm afraid that anything dead and blood. You know, Marty? You can become a herbal doctor. You can cure people by Mother Nature. I say, what do you mean by that? Curing people by Mother Nature. I say, Bush Martin. Bush cure every ailment, every sickness. Anyway, now, start living with this man. Get so interested in the herbal work of this man. The man threw about 10 herbal books. And I have donated them to the museum. The man said, Marlene, read them book here. And you can see what I chat about. Because even one night time, I say, no man, that man you must want madman, man. They come tell me, say, herb cure every ailment. I say, not go so. When the man showed the 10 herbal book, them I said, read. Because you can't read about high school. Read. You see when I read the books then? Where herbal doctors write from all over the world. Every bush, this a bush, dandelion is the best overall herbs for diabetes, comfrey are the best overall herbs for asthma. I say, no man, I'm a madman, me David. When me I say this about the bad bad. Anyway, I became so interested in this man teaching. I take it up, I research all these books, I turn myself in a self-taught nutritionist and herbalist. Now I'm healing strokes, asthma, diabetes, arthritis, all free from Peter Tosh teaching. Thank you for bringing up that topic. No applause. Thank you all for coming. Jagat.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? I notice nobody has addressed any of Evo's his presentation, but anyway, yeah, whatever's on your mind.
No, this is more a comment. And, I'm reminded of traveling to Canada way back in 1984. And a friend of mine who was, big into music asked me to bring an album. And my album of choice was the Legalize It album, Buckingham Palace, and to this day still remains one of my favorite songs. But one of my favorite lines is, put her in a white shirt, bound for water in a mud. Eh? Thank you.
All right. Evo, you want to say anything in response to that? Not necessarily. Well, the legalize it though obviously has the resonance because, as Nyambe was saying, the irony is, Peter talked about the medicinal benefits of herb, and so branding the medical marijuana industry is like, it's like a no-brainer. But as you said, they have to find the right partners. But he is the man who basically spearheaded the legalization campaign of marijuana in Jamaica, at least, if not the world. He spread the message and that was his first solo album. This is way back in '76. So I'm glad enough I remembered when that came out, and I said, whoa, isn't this some? But it was so how can I say it? It seemed so rebellious at the time that you say, well, how would they have the audacity to say legalize herb? But to show how far thinking he was, years ahead, decades ahead of his time. So, it would be suitable and it would be right for, the Peter Tosh legacy and brands to adopt and be very much part of this marijuana industry, which is booming now. I mean, not just the US, but globally, Canada, and the small man is not really getting his just due, but that's an issue in and of itself. So it's remarkable how things have changed, from back then. I mean, people who used to prosecute Rastafari now are in the medical marijuana. One of our former police commissioners is a big man in the business, so I also feel why, it's almost, it's something else, All right, so we have a question over here.
Yes, blessed night. Mr. Cooper, this question is for you. In terms of Mr. Touch as a philosopher and a revolutionist, using his music to speak to the people, how do you think about reggae music now? What do you think Peter Touch would have feel in terms of the current artists them now? How they might do the reggae music, how they use it, and how they might speak to the youth them? What do you think would have How you would have feel today?
Well, Peter, it doesn't mean, as I say, it's one inimitable way of dealing with things. There was a time when a lot of the artists, it's an ugly thing for talk, it's a fact. A lot of the artists in dancehall were actually using cocaine. Let me say freebase. And when them and Peter talk, Peter said, well, you know, the Bible says, he that exalts himself shall be a base. So you understand how Peter did with the thing. I think he would like Chronics and the direction of a lot of the young Ras them, because he was always encouraging music, encouraging the youth them, and encouraging positiveness. But certain direction, this was not him. But it is hard to say, because Peter was serious about certain things that I noticed now, even so-called conscious artists are compromising. So maybe that would have affected his view. You get what I'm saying? He never want a compromise stance on certain levity. Not just the music, the levity. You see? Recently, I see a young band, youths in their 20s, and they have the image, locks and everything. And when the time comes, Mr. Bacon, Jared Pope, thing comes, oh, wow, it's different now. What a thing. I know I just haven't never read it, so I don't know if he would have been in agreement with a certain compromise that some of the Rasta-looking reggae musicians are, right? It's hard to do it though, and I'll be in judgmental, but you understand what I mean? And take the image because I accepted image in the music now. But the levity that did go with it, plenty of them now deal with that. And I don't think Peter would have been patient with that. You know what I'm saying? Peter go up on the stage, you know, Antigua. He was a headline artist. And Steel Band was taking a long time to sound check. And Peter just come out and say, listen, I'm going to take off an old pan and old cockroaches and ghosts. You know what I mean? It was very upfront, like, direct like that, you know what I mean? So maybe he would have been very critical of the levity part of the thing. But I do see a few artists right now who I think you would admire their direction and you know, was the uncompromised Ras. Well, what you have to see is that a group like the Whalers in the beginning would have been listening to and really checking out groups like the Impressions, Platters, you know what I mean? The American rhythm and blues and duet groups. It was the original pattern for the singing groups. You get me? But after a while, when they came into their own and started to write their own material, right? It was sort of, not selfishly, but it was about them. Because Peter had a phrase about painting a picture from a picture. So he was into originality. You see? So that phase where they went solo and got deep into the message and so on, it was about originality. You know? So I couldn't say to you that he would have, for example, he wouldn't admire Stevie Wonder. You get me? But admiration as a fellow composer in the whole thing. Not a kind of hero worship. They demanded a go to the world. Chris Blackwood said something to me, the Bob Marley lectures, 4 years ago. They went on a tour and they were left stranded. This is the Whalers now, right? They were left. You know, one time, Sister Aita carried me go for a dance in a for talk, you know. And I'm black off the sound system, I'm talking about black history. And I'm saying, boy, the beauty, I get patient, I'm impatient. They want about the sound system. So after I talk for about 15 minutes, I say, all right, we'll stop talking, okay, you want to go back at the sound system. And a few of them say, no, I was shocked. All right, so you want to stay all night and not 10-year-old. All right, the thing to understand, and this is a very, very important part of reggae music, because we love Alton, Lovers Rock, and Dennis and all them man there. But the reggae music that put Jamaica on the map, the reggae music that went to the world, was the message reggae. You see? Remind me to tell you about that experience in South Africa that went completely thought. What you have to understand is that people came into the continent as beggars. Historic fact. They came from Arabia, over the peninsula there. They came from Europe and them ship mash up. And the Africans helped them free. Give them all land. But their mindset was such that them double cross the African and start capture. These are mad people. The guys on those ships were not even the best level Europeans. Many of them couldn't read. Some riffraff. You get me? So when them come in Africa, for example, them say a naked woman, then they realize that our appreciation was different. You see? Him just say, wow, she's sexy, and it's rape, 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 rape. That's what happened. So here comes the people who were not on the level of the people that they encountered, but them did have bigger gun. See? They now realized what was happening. Here comes a lot of resources. So they come back with the same thieving mentality. Riding upon the place and rationalized it by saying, oh, but you see they don't wear clothes so they're uncivilized, so we're going to civilize them. You see? And they don't have the same gods as we, so we're going to Christianize them. You see? When I was in Malawi, we have to understand that cultures in the world don't have the same understanding of things. Certain things, not in certain people's culture. That's like going to Hawaii is only 12 letters in the alphabet. Well, when I was in Malawi, the Malawi people them never have the concept of holy. It don't mean they're not good people, you know. But they never understand God that the way the European understand God. It's two different understanding. So when the man them going out to translate the Bible into Chewa, there was no word in Chewa for holy. Do you know what they used to substitute? They use the European, they use the Chewa word for white. So if you translate Chewa Bible literally, every time it says the Holy Spirit, it translates to the white spirit. These are the kind of things, you get me? So, when I'm telling you, say we have been now taught to think, we have to let go how them think and be sovereign. That's what Peter then would say. You get me? We are do what we are do. We don't care what you are do. Japanese and Chinaman them have that luck because they eat with 2 pieces of steak. Nobody can tell about never fuck. That's simple as that. They eat with 2 pieces of steak. You understand what I say? That's what I mean by sovereign. How me do it is how me want to do it. That's what freedom means. My right to do what I want to do. Them come in and them take away that right and rationalize it with all of these things. But it's their point of view. You see? And one of the 3 C's now, we pass the Christian, the way them come to the one about Christianize, is that they never realized, they didn't have the history to know that Christianity was in Africa before it was in Europe. It's later on them find out. You see? So all of these are the things now that equal rights and whole of them reggae music there. You get me? And to all the young artists who are aspiring to be hit artists, I notice the word branding, no disrespect my sister, with the word that's in vogue now, and the branding thing becomes very important as we are materialistic and trying to be hit this or make money. And we need money, you know, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if there's an artist today, a youth today, who would pay his own money and fly to Africa and bring him own band to celebrate the independence of Zimbabwe. Many of these youth feel that Bob Marley was paid for that show. You see, that's the era that the Mandela come from. When it comes to doing things for Africa, Peter and the Mandela, they would do it sometimes out of their own pocket, definitely out of their own heart. And it was no problem in those days for call together and set a man and say, watch that. Send your cards. People, I know we're talking about Peter Tosh, but I want to make up leave you with a piece of history. See the man who is the reason why Halfway Tree Park near Mandela Park. On February 11, 1990, him and Ivan and me and Third World, Sister and Flo O'Connor, put on that thing in the park without no assistance from government, no police and no soldier. And there was not one pickpocket in our one chain grabbing for the whole day. Everything was contributed because of the cause. And when things are going, we just take the mic and say, you see, from today, the place has been named Mandela Park. And I've seen politicians try to claim that since that time. And Mota Baruka ball out that on the mic. It didn't name Halfway Tree Park all the while. But I'm making the point that when the Rastafari movement moved with reggae music across the world, there was an altruism about getting rid of apartheid, getting rid of racism, and it is all embodied in what I consider the most important reggae lyric, equal rights and justice.
Thank you, Ivo. All right, well, we're getting about that time where we want to move into the next segment. So I don't know if there's any burning questions, but we're really, getting, I think, into the time where we're going into a musical segment, and here's some selection from Mutabaruka. Also, we have refreshments, some free refreshments here, courtesy of Benji Yatis. And I will go on record as saying, this man who hails from Ghana, so our African brother from the continent, now makes the most delicious yatis in a Jamaica. Although every Jamaican out here, I want to see a Jamaican can come up with a yati that tastes as good as his. So you are going to get the benefit. Those who haven't tasted, you're going to get at least one yati. So everybody is supposed to hold at least one yati and a juice. That's the least we can do for you, making the effort to come forward. So we big up Benji and him yatis, and we're going to pick up Mutabaruka right now. Muta time. Bless you. My name is Michael Barnett, by the way. Listen.
Only like to see you smile. Uno set up vampire. Uno vampire. Only trying up on creation with a bloody meditation. Uno set up vampire. No fight against righteousness, no fight against iration, no fight against everything good for the younger generation. Oh, vampire, do no wickedness at midnight, and no humble when it's daylight. No set up vampire. Only like to see blood run. Make sure you know it's fire burning. Fire. Oh, set the vampire.